The HACKney Carriage, hacking health across London with me, Salka from Appeal World ACV, learning from the experts.
Fasting kills me. People talk about fasting like it is a cure-all and a fix-all.
Let's talk about the effects of high blood sugar, not just in the short term, but the long term.
And it's really empowering when you feel the difference.
The field of medicine is moving beyond the prescription pad. It's becoming more intuitive, it's becoming holistic.
It feels like there's some symptoms that are really common. Well, welcome to the HACKney Carriage.
Thank you for having me.
So yeah, we're just talking now, and you tried the ginger one.
It tastes amazing.
You like it?
It tastes amazing.
And you think you would actually buy it?
I would buy it. I think every morning I take. Well, I've changed my breakfast routine recently, but it starts with apple cider vinegar.
It does, yeah.
2 teaspoons or a tablespoon, glass of water. Could put honey in it, but I don't bother, and just take that down and then have that just before my breakfast, if I'm having breakfast that day.
No, that was what I was doing, but I like to have it before my lunch or before my dinner for the glucose regulation of it. So we wanted to create something that was like on the go, because sometimes when you really need it the most, you're not at home and you don't have your apple cider vinegar and the water to be able to do all of that.
So you're not like me, you're not sad and carry all that stuff around.
No, well, I kind of was until I had the idea of starting this, and then my partner said, let's do it. So so now I carry these around instead. But and I saw you were looking at ingredients just to see what exactly was in there. I'm the same.
I think the sugar content is very low. You've chosen a sweetener which I think is organic, and it's not. It's a fairly well researched sweetener. When I go to the gym and I look for a drink to cool me down, afterwards, the shelves are just full of sparkling water with a bit of raspberry, sparkling water with a bit of passion fruit. And they usually have lots of quite bad sweeteners in them. This one, if it was on there, without question, I would buy it. Yeah,
so it was really important that we had no sugar, because we didn't want anything to take away the health benefits from the apple cider vinegar. So but I'm so glad that you could join us, because you're so busy, and I'm so glad we could, pin you down for a moment. And can you tell us a bit about your journey? Because you had quite a different start. You were not always into health and well-being.
No. Well, I was always into physical health in terms of playing football, going to the gym, for aesthetics, I would say. But I've spent all my life in banking, a place like Canary Wharf in the Middle East. It's been a very stoic culture, very kind of aggressive, dog eat dog, and I've kind of lived through that for 20 odd years. Then our friend COVID came along, and in COVID, I don't think I really adapted to the working from home culture, and my wife is a GP as well, and so she was actually dealing with bigger problems than I was, looking after 2 kids GP, and so on, and she still is. So she was at work as one of the first people who actually discovered COVID, and she was busy looking after patients, making sure that they were surviving, whereas I had problems which I thought were little in comparison. Work problems, looking after kids, aging parents, and so I just closed my mouth and I just didn't say anything, and just got on with it, because I was raised as a stoic Punjabi man, and that's what we do. We put our head down and we just get on with it. And weakness is not something you show. And even if I did want to show it, I felt selfish talking about it to my wife, who was dealing with much bigger problems. But I think it was around the second lockdown, I honestly can't remember the exact date, it was around October, I think, 2021. I woke up that day not feeling right. I'd probably had a bit too much booze the night before to dull the pain of just normality that was going on at that time. And my journey into Canary Wharf used to take me into Finchley Road, and then you change at Finchley Road. As I got off the train at Finchley Road, the train to Canary Wharf was approaching, and next thing I know, I'm flat out on the floor. I've woken up with fellow passengers around me and medics around me, not actually knowing what had happened. I stupidly refused any medical treatment. I refused any sort of support from the fellow passengers who were trying to give me water and all that stuff. Because when I got up, I immediately realised what happened. I had my mind that morning was telling me it had had enough, and I was, and my mind had broken, my body had broken. So, I didn't automatically lose the stoic individual. Like an absolute idiot, I got up, dusted myself off, got on the tube and went back into work.
You went back in?
I jumped onto the Finchley Road, straight to Canary Wharf, but the recoding of my brain had begun right at that moment. I decided internally, right, that's enough of this bullshit and it's time to deal with it.
Yeah.
And so I walked into the office, funnily enough, with a bit of swagger. Right? It's so odd. It was like everything I'd been trying to achieve: the promotion, the bigger car, the bigger house, better schools for the kids. All of that didn't really matter, and I'd suddenly had this moment in my life, which I now regard as one of the best moments in my life, to say, right, it's time to switch. You've just had a near miss. And so I went on this journey to find out, how do I deal with this? What do I do? And as I was walking my dog, I started listening to podcasts. I started listening to self-help podcasts rather than thumping music, which was probably making me feel worse. And I started to educate my brain through podcasts, through books, etc. Through that process, I became quite close to a podcast called the Jay Shetty podcast.
Yes.
Yes, and that taught me about rewiring my mind, rewiring my brain. To such an extent, I decided to enroll on the Jay Shetty certification school and become a qualified Jay Shetty coach. But my client at that time was just me, myself and I. It was time for me to deal with myself. Through that process, I decided to give up my job, and I did get another role, but the environment I was in was, for me, too toxic. It was not serving a purpose for me, and it was getting too much. But at the same time, having dealt with the mental and the emotional side of things, I then said, right, okay, yes, you may be this 47-year-old 100 kg bench pressing guy, so bloody what? So bloody what, right? It's like, okay, let me understand the mechanics of the body. And when I went out to understand the mechanics of the body, what people now call biohacking, there's so much crap out there. It's just so much crap. I ended up getting into arguments with quite famous biohackers on Instagram, saying, and I'm not going to name them, saying, I'm sorry, I just don't know why you're saying this. Oh, let me guess, because you're sponsored by them, right?
I've seen that too.
Right, and there's, and I don't have anything against sponsorship. I think in the right way, we need it to support and grow, etc. But these guys were using it at a time when there was a financial crisis. People could not afford to put food on the table or take their kids away on holiday, but they were telling people to switch from £1.99 toothpaste to £7.99 toothpaste. How the F is that going to help someone? So I went on this journey to try and understand, what is this? What is red light therapy? What is hyperbaric chambers? What are certain oxygen tents? What is methylation? What are these epigenetic clocks? And I just scratched my head. I said, wow, when I look around in Japan, when I look around in remote parts of India, when I look in some parts of Italy, and these people have grown old, you don't see them doing hyperbaric chambers. You don't see them in red light therapy units. So my wife at the time said to me, I've got a feeling you're about to do another qualification, aren't you? I said, yeah, because I need to develop some credibility. But my son said to me, Daddy, why don't you start a podcast? I said, to do what? He said, exactly what you're saying. Try and explain to people what all this stuff is. Bring the people who you are criticising onto the podcast, give them a chance to explain it and take them on. I said, I wouldn't know how to do a podcast, and I'd have no idea. But either way, I ended up launching a podcast. We called it Let's Grow Young, which was a moment of inspiration. I think I'd read somewhere, we are growing old, and I said, what would be the opposite of that? So, okay, let's grow young. And so we named it that. But to actually build some credibility into what I'm talking about, I then chose to do a qualification with Harvard Medical School. And this is all whilst I'm working, by the way, as well. And with Harvard, I qualified in lifestyle medicine and nutrition and well-being. That is where I learnt, right, actually, people have been too busy trying to fix an aspect of their body, an aspect of their physical architecture, without actually working out what's going on in here. This is where I brought the schools of Jay Shetty and the schools of Harvard together. And I thought, right, if I develop a framework around this and apply some of the stuff from my corporate learnings, maybe I can do something here. And so when I started understanding what are the pillars that make people grow well and age well, that's when I came to the realization, hold on a minute, there is no point of red light therapy, there's no point of hyperbaric chambers if you don't have clarity in your head. If you're unhappy in your life, then if you're happy in your life, if you're not sleeping properly, eating properly, if you're not exercising properly, all these things are free. Access to the sunlight. If you're not around good people, I got rid of lots of my friends who were too eager when they saw me down and out to take me to the pub and throw some beer down me. Right? I got rid of them overnight. So I developed a community of people. I switched my life from being this stoic banker to someone who just wanted to be a better human. But I also wanted to inspire people to say that a lot of what is achievable is free. Sort out that baseline first, then start looking at supplementations and technology. So that's what brought me onto this path. And you can imagine, my wife's a doctor. She's a well-researched doctor.
You must be having amazing conversations, like.
Or
do you talk about it
if we're not too busy? If we're not too busy walking the dogs or getting the kids to do their homework, she started off from the school of thought that, look, none of this is science-based. Where's the research? Very skeptical. But she's seen what it's done to me, and she now wants to get into lifestyle medicine, and so she is now talking to patients about diabetes, and then she thinks, actually, let me look at their routine, let me look at their food, let me look at other things rather than just stick them onto a pill. And so it's, let's not tell too many people, but I'm quite happy to have won that argument with my wife. so that's the actual, that's how I got onto this path.
I think during COVID, for so many people, they've had like these light bulb moments when they kind of hit the wall, and just, that's how we say in Swedish, by the way, you hit the wall. Basically, you've worked so much in a field that you're an autopilot, and all of a sudden it just all comes. Your body is, your soul is telling you to stop and really rethink. And I think it's kind of for me as well. I just want to feel good, and what can I find out there that will make me feel good? But it is a lot about the mindset. But how, if you would coach someone, what would be the first thing if someone feels stuck? What would you make them do?
I would do an audit of their life. I'd get them to do a gap analysis of family, friends, finances, physical security, exercise, community, all the key parameters in their life, and say, look, where are you when it comes to all these facets in your life, and where do you want to be? And we'll prioritize which areas of their life are most important at that point, and try and channel energies into those places. Because a lot of people, like I was funneling energy into making sure I run faster on the hedonic treadmill, my career, getting the next promotion, getting the next job. But my relationships with family were suffering, my relationships with friends were suffering, my mental health was suffering. So when I sat down and said, right, where am I spending my time? I thought, wow, there's too much on career here. Let me redistribute that energy. And I'm talking about energy as opposed to time. But I redistributed that energy. When I did that, it actually ended up having really positive effects. So once you start fixing one area, it starts having a ripple effect in the other area. So I would start by doing that.
But I need to be very conscious. I mean, because it can easily feel overwhelming. And then... sorry, Damon. Do we have to? Is this going to ruin something? This is what being in the middle of London, and then there's this alarm. That alarm goes off.
Yeah, but what I learned with my podcast is this type of rawness goes down really well. So my podcast could be a lot more professional, but the feedback I've had is that the listeners actually like the fact that I almost got rid of my production company, because they were making me look like I didn't want to. I wanted to look more raw. I wanted to look more original. So I think things like that actually are all right. If it was going on all the time, that'd be a problem.
No, I didn't want to interrupt, but I was just thinking that now it's off, is it? Yeah, okay, let's get cracking. But because I feel like you need to be very conscious, and like personally I'd like write things down and have like a structure, because if I just have it all in my head, I don't know what to prioritize and what to start with. And I guess just starting with anything would help. But do you have like a map out and go through it all?
I do have a structured approach with the clients, but first and foremost, the initial meeting for me is I can tell within the first 5 minutes if my approach is going to work with the client or not. Most times the client is coming to you. That means they've recognized that there's an issue already. If the client is being forced, maybe by the wife or a parent, to come through, it often doesn't work. But the point of actually getting them to recognize that there's a framework that can help, that's actually quite straightforward. Where I start getting intricate with them is where I use lifestyle medicine as a blueprint to start fixing things in their life. I've got a client at the moment, and his wife approached me about 2 months ago. No, sorry, not 2 months ago, about 4 months ago. And I was skeptical that the wife is approaching me, not him. But anyway, I met this guy, explained the framework, and I told his wife, give me 3 sessions and you're going to have your husband back. After 1 session, the feedback was, wow, he's a new man. And so I think sometimes people are just crying to talk to someone independent with empathy, who can make little adjustments to their lifestyle, and that can have a ripple effect on all those pillars I talked about.
But it needs to come from within as well. Like, even if your wife is finding it's amazing, because sometimes someone hears about someone, like maybe the wife heard about you, but he wanted to change. Like that needs to be. But I, as you, have found during lockdown that I was listening to On Purpose with Jay Shetty a lot, and it felt so inspiring, and it felt like it was shaking me, because it's very easy to feel almost overwhelmed by, especially if you live in a big city, and what we went through during COVID, I think, has really had a huge impact of all of us, more or less, but everyone just gone through this, and it's so difficult to grasp, and I feel like I'm not the same person as I was before COVID. And it's, and not the person before, I don't miss the person before COVID, because I feel like it really put things into perspective and not taking things for granted, and we only have this life, and what can we do? And so it must have been an amazing journey for you to change that.
It was, but where I see people struggling now is, what's quite apparent to me is that you use words such as don't like the person you used to be, or you don't miss the person you used to be. I hate the person I used to be, but COVID gave me the opportunity to just pause. My pause was a burnout and hitting the wall. but it then gave me the opportunity to start a parallel world, to put one foot in one world, whereas realising I've still got responsibilities in my old world, but keeping that going. But I just turned the pace down on the treadmill on the old world, and I increased the pace on the second treadmill. So what I've seen is that post-COVID, we have people working from home who have continued to run on that old treadmill and may not have actually assessed what do I need to learn and what's happened during COVID. Have I got my priorities right? Does another 10 grand a year for a pay rise really mean as much as spending time with your family? I think a lot of people have just not been able to stop, reflect and put their foot in another world.
I think autopilot is also an escape, and it's difficult to sit with your emotions and what you're feeling and trying to find a way out of it. That's hard. But the escapism, and we just I understand that. But it's great with the work that you do and the people that can find you. And so how do people hear about you? You're very good on Instagram. I looked at that.
I think I'm appalling on Instagram.
Really?
I think I'm absolutely appalling.
I don't know. I think I'm poorly on Instagram. I don't know. It doesn't come natural to me. But we do what we do because that's what we're living in now.
Yeah, I mean, if people want to find you, they will find you. Instagram, I don't know. I've been trial and error. So I've lived in the corporate world where for 20 years I was stuck to setting a goal and doing everything in my path to achieve it. If that meant pushing people aside, if that meant backbiting, if that meant running faster than anyone I can to get that goal, I did it. But when I got there, it was actually pretty crap. I was like, well, this isn't all that. I've got the pay rise, but the tax man's taking the money, right? Or I've got there, but everyone hates me.
Yeah.
But the point that I'm actually getting at is that when I set up my coaching business and the podcast, I promise I'm not going to set myself big goals anymore. So with the podcast, I said I'm not going to set a big goal. I'm going to set a direction, and my direction is I'm going to grow young. In order to grow young, great bloody words. I'm going to grow young. So many people say, I'm going to get better, but their habits and their actions aren't aligned to that direction. So
have you completely dropped, say you don't set goals, you don't want to lift, well, you don't aim for 100 kg in the gym, do you still go down the pub and have a pint? Has it been a complete turnaround?
So it almost is a complete turnaround.
Yeah.
But what I would say is, my belief is that if my direction is to become a better person, I still do a lot of endurance events, and I'll use the gym example. I know that if I'm not daily eating properly, exercising properly, the output is not going to be benching 100 kg. But if I am training properly, recovering properly, eating properly, I will bench 100 kg. But when I do it, it's not like, hey, I've achieved it. And so now with my podcast and with the business, I love the fact that it's trial and error. I love the fact that I'm making some stupid mistakes. I love it. But so Instagram hit 20,000 followers. To be honest, I don't know how Instagram works, and I don't know if some of them are bots. But YouTube is where I believe my real growth has come. So YouTube, I'm almost at monetization, and we've hit quite a lot of followers on there. But again, I did not do this to get a big following. Right, and
but it's nice when you can reach out to people and they can find you and get inspired by that. But I think the intention of you doing it for yourself, and then if people want to jump on your train, they can. But you're setting smaller goals now, or no direction. You said
I'm setting a direction to. My direction is to live life with zest as I grow older, and I'm finding I'm getting much more zest and energy as I'm growing older. I'm trying to be a role model in the right way. I think Scott asked about the pub. I do go to the pub, Scott.
You haven't dropped that.
No, I love a pint. I love a glass of wine, but it's a treat.
Yeah,
it's a treat. A mate wants to meet me after this, and I said, I told him I can't, but I will meet mates for a drink. But it's the reward at the end of quite a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
But that will be, actually, it's a good point Scott makes. So my way of having drinks and beers and stuff has changed. It's not just go to the pub randomly and just have a bunch of drinks. I don't do that anymore. So I met at a friend's house a few weeks ago, and he said, look, let's have some drinks. And we said, look, if we meet in a pub, we know we're just going to sit there and we'll be encouraged by others to just have one drink after another. So we went to his house, we put a gas fire and a pot in the garden, we had some nice wine, and we cooked a curry. And we're having an experience. We cooked a curry, had a few drinks, job done. But this actually started soon after COVID, when I watched a movie about a bunch of guys who were in the state that I was, and they decided to switch the way they drink into doing it whilst having a good experience. The experience I had to change the way I drink was to run with the bulls in Pamplona. so honestly, we've started celebrating events by having a drink at the end of it, rather than the other way around.
But that's how it should be.
Yeah.
I mean, I love a glass of wine, and but I also know I will feel tired the day after. But sometimes it's worth it when you're with friends and it's a special occasion, and I don't believe in when it's like you're taking away everything that used to give you pleasure, and you're just focusing completely, because I think, for example, you're doing no sugar, no carbs.
It doesn't work.
It's not sustainable, and you're fixating, and it takes over your life in a way, but to have moments where you can just enjoy. Our slogan is kind of have your cake and eat it, but you can do that, but you need to build up for the reward.
Yes, that's exactly it. That's exactly what I do now, and again, I see people who are aging, and it just, I don't want to say irritates me. It does irritate me when people say I'm getting old and I can't do something. They don't understand the science of aging. They don't understand why they age. They don't understand that every other day binge drinking doesn't help, eating what you want doesn't help, not sleeping properly, all that stuff. And so I guess by default I've become a bit of a role model for these people. I sent a message to my personal trainer last night. I do a thing called High Rocks, and he trains me for it, and I sent him a message to say, Kieran, I don't think an almost 50-year-old is supposed to be running times like this. I thank you for your coaching. And he's put it on Instagram about 2-3 hours ago, and many people have emailed me saying, wow, I'm about 50, can you help me? And so I just want to change the mindset of people. I want to show people, but this is not about spending hours and hours in the gym. It is about, number one, sleeping properly, number two, eating properly, exercising properly, managing your stress properly, having the right community around you, avoiding toxic substances such as cigarettes and e-cigarettes, right, and that sort of stuff. And all those pillars are interrelated. So you fix one, it will have a balancing effect on the others. You don't fix a key one, it will impact everything. If you don't sleep properly,
it will.
You won't eat properly, you won't exercise, and all this adds to a process called methylation in your body, which affects your genes and your aging. And until people get to understand this, they won't make the correlations to do that. Someone said to me the other day, oh, I've got FOMO. I go, why? I said, well, all these guys are going out, but they're not taking me out, and why aren't they? And he said to me, don't you feel it? I said, no, I've got JOMO. I've got the joy of missing out. I love it when someone's not invited me. I love it because the message is getting through. I have joy in missing out. I like to sit at home with my dog and my family.
Oh God,
right? Bit of charcuterie, bit of cheese.
We can relate.
That's it. Lovely.
But it's kind of, it's so nice to slow down sometimes, because we are bombarded with so much in our own lives that we can't, with work and just living in a big city and with social media and everything, so it's kind of nice to just have your little bubble and look after it, and because I think that it's saving your energy and not letting your energy out there. Sometimes you need to protect yourself in that way.
Indeed.
What have you got as like daily non-negotiables? Because I think about routine a lot, and because that's what builds up your life. It's like you think that one day doesn't count, and then it goes into a week, and then it goes into a month, and then you haven't changed the thing you wanted to change. But it's like the routine is so important. Do you have like non-negotiables that you have to do to feel good?
I think holistically everything needs to work together, and so my non-negotiable is actually making sure that all the things in those pillars I mentioned earlier I'm doing. But if there's like very specific to non-negotiable, my sleep routine is very important. My sleep was so bad, the London Sleep Clinic invited me to a study to see if why do I have these sleep issues and can they fix it. They got rid of me after one night because my sleep issues were so bad. I probably had about 15 years where I slept maximum 4 hours in a night, and it goes back to some trauma I had in the past. But through my growth through Let's Grow Young, my very first episode was with a lady called Lisa Butcher, and she was able to kind of mentally go inside of me and fix that trauma, and I slept like a baby after that. And so now having good sleep hygiene is an absolute non-negotiable. So having a cool temperature in the room and the mattress, putting my phone away out of reach, reading, blocking out the lights, and actually playing with my dog before I go to bed rather than Netflix and so on. That's an absolute non-negotiable. There's many non-negotiables. I think trying to take my trace vitamins and minerals in the morning, vitamins and minerals, such as vitamin K, vitamin D.
Okay.
Having my mushroom coffee. I believe mushroom coffee has really helped me.
Yeah. Which brand do you use?
London Nootropics. I'm actually an ambassador for them as well. But I've tried many brands, but that's the brand that does really work with me. And not switching on the TV when I get downstairs. Whatever the weather, I will sit in the garden with my dog next to me and watch the birds fly by, even if it's 5-10 minutes.
It sounds
and
wonderful.
then I live in a fairly green part of London, so we're quite lucky that way, and so they are my non-negotiables. I can go into others which you could argue are close to being non-negotiables, such as regular saunas and cold plunges, throwing regular intermittent fasting, apple cider vinegar.
Yeah. But you were mentioning earlier of things that health shouldn't cost a lot. It should be free, and but what are those things that are free? That, for example, with exercise, is there any specific exercise that you swear by? Like, during your week, do you feel like you need to sweat X amount of times per week? Or
I'm getting really tired of all these doctors and scientists going on about no need to do cardio. And so look, muscle strength is going to be the most important thing to facilitate healthy aging. Many reasons for it: insulin production, your ability to move,
bone density,
if you fall over, your ability to recover. But there's all these Instagrammers going around saying you don't need to do cardio or limit it. As I said to a bodybuilder in the gym the other day, who chose to have some deep discussion with me in the sauna as I was trying to meditate. I said to him, but what's the point if you can't walk up the stairs? What's the point if you can't walk 2 miles? And so for me, muscle's really important, but for mental health, getting the endorphins flowing through cardio for me is really important. And so I'd say make sure you do a variety of cardio, but also do the muscle work. And you don't have to be a part of a gym. You can do different paces of walking every day. You can sit outside in the sunlight. That's free as well.
But I was thinking with cardio, and does it have to be at least 10 minutes? Or I know that something is better than nothing.
Yeah.
But I think my husband said something about sweat 10 minutes a day and you'll feel good. And I think we all find these things that makes us feel good, because sometimes I overdo it, and then I'm out for the next 5 days, and I'm just tired because I overdid it at the gym, and that's not sustainable either, because I love moving. but it's about finding that middle
So
ground.
it really depends on what everyone's individual circumstances are. If you're coming from a base of 0 and you start on 10 to 15 minutes a day, that's a good start. 10 to 15 minutes a day in my book isn't going to get you that far, because your heart rate is constantly at a fairly low rate. And if you're going to do low rate cardio, it actually needs to be 40 to 60 minutes in zone 2. But you also need heart rate variability through HIIT training.
Yeah.
And I probably do too much of that, to be honest. I probably damage myself with that sort of stuff. But then I run races. So to me, 10 minutes a day, I don't think will create that much difference to your heart health. It will in terms of releasing some endorphins and making you feel better. But I think people should target a bit more intensity than that.
For like 60 minutes or something.
If it's zone 2, depending upon which base you're coming from,
yeah, no, for
30
sure.
to
Like
60
always,
minutes.
something is better than nothing.
It is, yeah.
I just need to learn what my formula is for every day, because I like doing some exercise every day, but so sometimes I'm just exhausted.
You can overdo it.
My
So,
legs are, still. I can't really walk properly from the last few days after the gym, but maybe that's good. I don't know.
I've had blood tests done that tell me I'm overdoing it. But I do high roxes. I do them all year round, and I have to train. So it's something I need to balance out. You can overdo it, but better to overdo it than underdo it, I think.
Yeah, I mean I get very kind of, when I find something I love, I do it. I really go for it, and then I need to find a new way. I recently became much more into strength training because I have my history in yoga and Pilates and ballet, and my physio said to me, you got to focus on strength training because I'm hypermobile and I need really good muscles to be able to control. So it's different, isn't it?
I think you should do.
For you, is walking? I know you said you had a Labrador. I think is walking your Labrador enough cardio for a day? I'm one of those people. Lazily, probably. I walk my dog, and I sometimes think I'm done for the day now. Like my job's done.
How far do you walk it? Her or him?
I've got a Labrador as well, and 2.5 miles.
Is that usually after dinner?
It's first thing in the morning, usually, to be honest. Yeah.
So I think 2.5 miles first thing in the morning is pretty good.
Right. But the rest of the day, not so much.
No, I would just say try and mix it up with some longer. Well, what you're doing is zone 2 training. Is maybe some longer zone 2 training, and then maybe once a week, maybe 20 to 30 minutes more high intensity where your heart rate is going up and down.
Yeah. Okay.
That would help. Or before my my hitting the wall incident, I used to walk 2 hours and then sit 2 hours in the pub.
Right.
With the dog. Don't do that.
I'll note that
Doesn't count.
Yeah.
Right.
But I know of a friend of mine who works in the office, and every hour he stands up and does the stairs, runs up and down the stairs, just to try to get his heart rate up, and so
That's a good point. I've got a standing desk as well, so when I work I have a desk that goes up and down, and 90% of the time I'm standing up.
Have you got a treadmill as well?
No.
I've seen those, and I'm just is that even possible?
No.
I wouldn't be able to do it. God, yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us at HACKney Carriage. I'm looking for. Are you? What's on the agenda now for you?
On the agenda is I've got my story's coming out in the Daily Telegraph on the 5th of October. It was supposed to be tomorrow, but it's changing, so that's going on. We're trying to grow the podcast a bit more. YouTube just emailed me to say you have almost approached monetization, so I've got to figure out what that means.
Okay.
Right? I've got to work out what that means. I'm trying to run a few seminars for people to attend, but as you know, just not trying to set too many big goals and just go step by step with it.
I think that's the key. And then, it feels so good when you have small goals or directions, and you do a list, and you ticking everything off, and you feel like, okay, I'm going in the right direction here.
It works. I mean, I spent time a leadership seminar with the McLaren Motor Company, and this was at their testing tracks and their head office. And when you try and work out why are McLaren so good, why have they been so good for so long? Because they don't set goals. Someone said, what do you mean McLaren don't set goals? They always win. McLaren actually set a direction, and where my framework is actually the same as McLaren is, by setting a direction, it means you're never saying that I've achieved the goal and what do I do now? They're every single day they're increasing their benchmark of performance. They're increasing, and in autopilot they're getting better and better and better. So there's a saying at McLaren that they all know that they get that the entire company's performance on the track and in the factories improves every 15 minutes, because they've set their directions, their habits so well that people are committed to that, and they know the end result is the driver picking up the world championship, and they do it year after year because they're not there saying we want to go this many seconds faster, this many seconds faster. They're fine-tuning every single day, and in autopilot, boom, the output comes.
It's the journey.
Yeah.
It's the journey. My acting teacher said it's the work, it's the reward, not the result. So it's the work that leads to that, but you need to love it. You need to love the process of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so
No
much.
worries. That was lovely.
Yay!
That was
I'll get you
absolutely
more of
lovely.
those.
No worries,
So
no
I'll
worries.
stack you up.